Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. We record these interviews so potential buyers have more information about the seller and the business to help them make a buying decision. Now, before we dive in, let's go over a brief summary of this business. It's an Amazon FBA business created in June of 2016 in the pet care niche. The average monthly revenue for the business is $32,492 and makes an average of $7,552 per month in net profit. The assets included in the sale are an Amazon Seller Central account with 5 SKUs, a Shopify account, supplier relationships, social media accounts, which include Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, 2 trademarks, and just as a disclaimer, inventory isn't normally included in the list price, but further details can be provided to verified buyers. And another disclaimer, buyers should have an active VAT number in all UK and EU countries where this business has inventory stored before the transfer can finalize, and it's highly recommended to begin the VAT process as soon as possible. So for everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing 64152 to learn more about the business, or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So that's a brief overview of the business for sale. Let's hear from the seller with me today. So welcome to the show, Harrison. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to learning more about you and your business. So to kick us off, can you tell me a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses?
Sure. So I don't have much of a background building and running online businesses other than this one. I have a Wharton MBA. I've been in finance for the most part for the last 10 years in banking and asset management. At one point in 2016, I was sort of out of a job and looking for some fun side hustles, and Amazon FBA was all the rage at the time. So I decided to give it a shot and tried a few products. Some of them stuck, and that's sort of how I got into this business from a pretty low start, just kind of was able to grow it over many years. And that's sort of my background, but this is really the only online business I've ever really run.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations on the first business being the one that you have exited. That's a dream that many founders share, certainly. I'm curious, did your experience or your MBA have application to this realm of online business? I'm sure it was quite different from maybe more of the traditional businesses that you studied and interacted with.
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps slightly. I think if you're able to do financial analysis, it's helpful because I think a lot of people who got into these businesses around the same time as me didn't really know how to do accounting properly. And so they thought they were making money when they're really just looking at top line numbers and might have been actually losing money when you add everything up. So I think kind of the business analysis aspect of it, my background in finance was helpful. But I think ultimately this business and any other business you get into, it's really about getting your hands dirty and really doing the work and understanding the market and failing and figuring out what kind of works along the way.
Yes. Great. So it's been several years that you've started this business. Why are you deciding to sell the business now instead of keeping it and growing it?
I actually, interestingly enough, I sold this business through Empire Flippers once in 2019. And I sold it to a buyer who was a really nice guy. And he was an older gentleman, but I think he didn't really have a grasp on how to run an online business and maybe got a little deeper than he thought he wanted to. And during COVID, I kind of reached out to him, seeing how it's going. And he said he was going to sell the business. So I offered to buy it back from him and we could do it on pretty good terms. And so I bought it back from him. And my goal was to, I never really got to expand the business before then to Europe and all these other geographies. I kind of had the goal of trying out new things within the business. And so I did some of that. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. Now I'm sort of back selling the business again. Now, in terms of why I'm selling it now, I think I've done a good job growing the business over the past 3 years. I have kids and a family and a job, and it's kind of become a little bit distracting for me, even though it's maybe a 5 hour a week type of job or type of side hustle. But I think it's just time to monetize it for me. And I think someone else who's really good at digital marketing might be a good fit for this, and someone who can really blow it up, which I think is very possible.
Yeah, that's such a unique story. And I'm sure a lot of buyers would be thinking about a couple of things. One is maybe who would be the right fit for this, and then just some of the things that you did once you reacquired the business to grow it. So let's get into that. I guess let's focus on these most recent few years of you reacquiring the business and focusing on ways to grow it. Was there anything you tried with this business that really worked during that time?
Well, I had to do a lot of experimentation with the geographic expansion. First of all, we had Brexit, which complicated things. So instead of having one VAT certificate, you needed 7 or whatever it is, because you couldn't ship directly from the UK anymore. When I got it back, like, a lot of these geographies weren't profitable. So kind of figuring out the profit maximization equation in each geography was a bit of a challenge. I had that, and I also was able to reduce COGS by a decent amount during that period, which I tried to move to a different manufacturer, and that didn't work out. And I was able to go back to my original manufacturer at a lower price. So I think those were the main challenges I was grappling with. I also tried some social media stuff, for example, some TikTok influencer videos. And if you go on our TikTok, if you kind of unlock the listing, I think you'll be able to see some of those videos, which I think were great. But it just ended up being something that was, I think, too costly for the short-term payoff, at least. I think if I could have afforded to pursue it for a year or more, I think it would have paid off huge. And I think in terms of who could really benefit or who could do well with this business is someone who could invest a lot of incremental capital into marketing the business. I do know that the main competitor for this business is doing $20 to $30 million of sales on, I would say, very few additional products. And that's in the US only. And so I know that the market is much larger than my market share within it. And so if someone is sort of willing to spend to grow within the market, I think there's a huge opportunity. And there's a lot that they could make that large competitor does to kind of get to that level.
Yeah, that's really great to hear that last part that you mentioned about there being a competitor that shows where this brand could be. Because the way that I'm viewing this brand is this business is comprised of a few SKUs that's branded really well. And further to that, you have kind of done the homework and made the adjustments to determine how you can be profitable in a lot of these different markets. So it seems like the ideal person, as you said, somebody who's willing to spending some capital on some more aggressive growth efforts. It seems like you have already kind of set up those different channels through which a buyer could then, if they had the capital to do so, would be able to really expand into those territories and do so profitably based on the foundation that you created. So that's really cool to hear.
That's absolutely right. And I should also mention that there's a sleek and well-designed website I've set up within Shopify for the business that I never really drove revenue to. So a lot of the pieces are in place to accelerate the growth. And also, I should add, my manufacturer has the capability to do new products, and they want to kind of do R&D for some of those products. So as you said, a lot of the pieces are in place to kind of explode this business much higher. It's just a matter of how much of my own capital did I want to put into it while I was doing this. And my appetite wasn't very high, just for various personal reasons.
Yep. Which I think also highlights the fact that should a buyer just want to acquire this business so that they can just make cash from it, it can survive with just kind of doing what you're doing at the moment. So you mentioned a little bit earlier that you really only spend about 5 hours a week on this business. Can you describe the amount and the type of work that you do on this business for maintenance?
I would say 90% of it is just checking the marketing spend on Amazon, making sure the ACOS and tacos are kind of in line with where I want to see it. And that takes a little bit of time because you have a couple SKUs, then you have US, UK, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Japan running on the sort of Amazon platform. And so it's not incredibly difficult. It just takes a little bit of time to log into all those things and check all the data. So that's a big part of it. The other part of it is once a month doing financials, which I just do it by myself by hand. So I'm sure there's some software that you can plug in and do it for you. So that takes a little bit of time. And then, you have your random customer questions, maybe reviews, maybe you have to issue some refunds or things like that to make the customer happy. But in general, those are the main things. It's pretty low touch. I mean, honestly, you could get away with, and I forgot, the last thing is kind of just checking inventory levels, ordering inventory and sending that stuff out. So that does take a little bit of time as well. Yeah, I think generally you could run on autopilot for, let's say, a month or 2 months, but you do have to really just make sure things aren't blowing out of control in terms of costs. The other dynamic of this business is that it's seasonal twice a year. So the summer and winter months are both very strong. And so one reason that it takes a little bit of extra work in terms of monitoring the ad spend is because of that cadence of sales. Some things work during some months, some during others. And so there's just a lot of adjustments to be made throughout the year.
Got it. So it sounds like maybe one of the great opportunities for a buyer to work during that 30 to, in your case, we'll talk about the 90-day support period post-sale. That'll be maybe something to discuss with you just about your workflow or how you make sure that those ad costs don't get too out of control. But besides that, it sounds like a lot of what you do is pretty much what any Amazon owner would need to do, which is managing ad campaigns and inventory management, and of course, operating the account.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Okay. Well, you mentioned some growth opportunities, and we talked about how the pieces were kind of in place to deploy those opportunities for the right buyer. So if you were to keep the business, maybe we can go a little bit more specific. What are some ways that you would try to grow it?
A couple things. One thing is I know that I'm almost positive it will grow year over year just because I was out of stock in inventory in Europe for almost 3 months this year. And it wasn't because of inventory problems at my supplier. It was just because demand got way higher than I had expected in Germany and Italy in particular. So it was kind of a good problem to have, a bad problem to have for me because I'm trying to sell it this year. But I think there's a good amount of embedded growth just by having inventory in stock. So that's the first thing I'll mention. Second thing I'll mention is I think the products are consumables for pets, and the products lend themselves to extensions within that consumable category. I guess we'll just call it kind of grooming pet care. And so there's a lot within that category that you can expand to. And I think the brand image lends itself to a higher end customer demographic where margins tend to be high. And so I think if you're willing to work on formulating, designing, and launching new products within that category, I think we have a pretty strong product or brand image that you can launch into. And none of it's guaranteed. I've tried to do one additional product which comes with this business, which is kind of didn't work out for me. But again, it's sort of costly to launch product after product. And so it was something that involved risk and also a lot more work, which I was sort of trying to make this the least amount of work possible for me. But I do think there are several categories of products that I can talk to any buyer about who would be interested in. And my manufacturer also has capabilities in place to do some of those things. So that's number one. Number two is marketing funnel. I really think sort of either Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok would be ideal for this business. And I think TikTok, especially if you were to invest a decent amount of money in TikTok campaigns, not even paid, I think influencer type campaigns, which I've tried for 1 or 2 months. Like I said, it's a bit costly, but I think over time, enough months of that will create a significant brand halo that will help increase sales a lot and drive traffic to the Shopify site, and will have sort of compounding effects on the overall brand. So, and building an email list and all those other things. So I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity. And like I said, I know for a fact that the biggest competitor does 50x the amount of sales we do. I know that the market's big enough, but there are also these other brand extensions, which are even bigger markets. So I think it's definitely a good opportunity.
Yeah. And to draw out another point, what you mentioned about these being consumable products, if somebody were to, instead of trying to expand the product line, which they definitely can, but if the consumable products imply that there is large potential for there to be a repeat customer base just purchasing the same types of products. So I could see there being an opportunity here for, you mentioned that you have Shopify already set up. It's a nice looking site. So to me, that means potential for building out an email list further and further, including that as part of just acquiring repeat sales from the same customer base. So I can definitely see that you're set up very nicely for that to be something to grow out further.
Yeah, we even have a subscription option on our checkout part of our site already. And you could pen some LTV calculations and figure out what kind of CAC you would want to be able to spend on that. And I think it would end up being decently attractive. So, yeah, I mean, again, it takes a decent amount of upfront investment, but I think the payoff is pretty attractive because the margins are high, it's a consumable product, and there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yep. So with the opportunities, what do you think are the biggest risks with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
I would say the biggest risks are always, in my mind, just kind of the Amazon risk, which is we don't know necessarily how their algorithm works. They could deprioritize you somehow for some reason, and SEO ranking could go down. I think there are only a few products that we have, and one product is the vast majority of sales. So, there's always a risk of competition or just maybe a bad batch of inventory and people get turned off by the product. I think there's some risk there, but I think it's sort of similar to any Amazon type business you would see.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking to follow up with. Just that anybody who does have experience in this space is probably, at least internally, nodding their heads because they are very well aware of these risks with this
Right.
business model. But there are also ways to mitigate the risk, like increasing the number of SKUs, just expanding the brand line, as you mentioned, just making sure you are not engaging in anything black hat and you're just staying in ultimately the good graces of Amazon's terms of service.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Well, a few housekeeping questions to wrap this up. How much support are you willing to offer a new buyer?
I have officially listed 90 days support, but I am definitely willing to provide as much support as you need. Not my goal to be a permanent employee of the business after I sell it, but I'm fully open to helping you address any problems that arise.
Cool. Yeah, and it sounds like there are a few different specific topics that a buyer could really learn a lot from you with regarding the ad campaign management and maybe some of these growth tactics that you were talking about potentially, or just making sure they're running the business properly. But yeah, anybody listening to this, the default normally is the 30 days, but Harrison is willing to offer significantly more than that. So that's great. Okay. And just confirming that you commit to a non-compete after this business is sold.
Yes, absolutely. And just to add on to the 90 days, this isn't like kind of pump and dump sale for me. I would actually like to see this business succeed for the long term. I put a lot of blood and sweat into it. And so the reason I would offer more support than 30 days or even 90 is because I want it to succeed. And so I want you to succeed, whoever you are, the buyer.
Yeah. And as you're mentioning some of these different terms that are not necessarily used as much in the Amazon FBA space, talking about LTV and, well, I guess just maybe getting more into like the recurring customer focus and just like the acquisition cost. Maybe that's not as much of a focus outside of just managing ad spend or something like that. So it sounds like there are a few things that you could really help out with and that could really help bring this brand to that level that you're talking about that you mentioned the competitor is at, like really bring it to that level.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. Are you open to something like an earnout on this deal?
I'm looking for a cash offer, but I'm sort of open to all offers. In terms of contingent payout, I just want to understand I'm a financial, I need to understand the counterparty and what kind of people they are. And there's more that goes into that than just accepting a sort of counterparty to give a contingent offer, but I'm open to it.
Yep. And it also sounds like it might be worth looking at or having a conversation with who the buyer is and what maybe their experience is with it, as you've gone through this before and you maybe have an idea of who would be an ideal buyer that could take that brand to the next level and would be happy to own this business. Okay. Last two questions. Putting yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why do you think this is a business worth buying?
Well, I think, as I said, there are good opportunities for brand extension. I think it probably has some leading margins for an FBA business. So there's a good amount of downside protection there in terms of like business quality. Pretty diversified from a geographic standpoint as well. And like I also said, their inventory was out of stock this year. So there's just some embedded upside for next year as well. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of upside for someone that wants to invest, but a lot of stability for someone that just wants to own it and kind of run it for cash flow.
Cool. All right. Well, last question. Is there anything you'd like to add that you think I might have missed during the interview?
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot of stuff, and I think that's a lot of it. But anyone who wants to buy it, I'm happy to discuss in way more detail with you.
Great. Yeah, I think this business is in a really great position to be taken to that next level with the right resources. So, yeah, I'm excited to see where this business goes. Well, I'm going to wrap this up here. Harrison, thank you so much for sharing your story and joining us on today's episode. And I hope your business is purchased in the near future and by the perfect buyer.
Me too. Thanks a lot, Nick.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 64152. And if you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.